So an interesting Jordan Peterson related story crossed my news feed lately, and I couldn't resist talking about it. Now, I think by now we've kind of established that as much as I might like Jordan Peterson, and I actually like Jordan Peterson and his ideas quite a bit, I am willing to speak out and criticize him when I think that he's wrong about something. When he was when he was dead naming Elliot Page and getting himself banned off Twitter for that, I was more than willing to basically say, yeah, hey, no, that's stupid. Like, that was a really stupid tweet. Don't do that. That was really dumb. And a similar thing when he was writing that tweet about that fashion model from the Sports Illustrated magazine, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, the cover model. That was really dumb. Don't do that. Like, you're not bringing anything good into the world by doing something like that. And so, yeah, I think by now we've kind of established that I'm willing to criticize Dr. Peterson when I think that he's done something that's not right. And of course, I'm also willing to to say when I think that he has done something right. And what this story actually had to do with was actually really neither one of those two things. What it had to do with was the actor-director Olivia Wilde. And so apparently she has a movie coming out here, maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a couple of months. I'm not entirely sure when it's coming out. The movie's called Don't Worry, Baby. And apparently what it's about is like this, this young woman played by Florence Pugh. And basically she gets, she and her husband, they get kind of reeled into almost like this cult that's being run by by some guy by the name of Chris Pine. Played by Chris Pine, I should say. Pardon me. And so Chris Pine, he plays this cult leader type character. And as it turns out, in recent weeks, Olivia Wilde's actually come out and said that cult leader was actually based around, it was kind of inspired by Jordan Peterson. And she literally came out in the media, and the way that she described it as, in very typical Olivia Wilde fashion. Because while I think that she does seem to like to talk about these things, when you kind of examine her comments and things like that, it's like her understanding and her kind of mental commitment to any of these issues is really kind of paper thin. She's this prototypical kind of obnoxious Hollywood Politico type would-be, kind of similar to if Sean Penn had a vagina, he would be Olivia Wilde, or maybe he'd be something else. Who knows these days? But anyway, so the quote that she gave to the media was, "There's this insane guy named Jordan Peterson, and we based Chris Pine's character off of him," something like that. But she literally just said, "Oh, there's this insane guy," and it's like, well, kind of really seems with a comment like that, like she knows a lot less about Jordan Peterson than really what a lot of people out there want her to think about Jordan Peterson. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because once you realize that some of these people don't even really know who Jordan Peterson is, you kind of understand that really at a certain point they're only really criticizing him or even talking about him strictly because they're told to. Not because they know who he is or what he believes or what he stands for. And anything that might be wrong with it, they're just kind of told, hey, Jordan Peterson is this bad guy we don't like, so we do this, and we all do this. And so it kind of really drives home exactly what it is that Olivia Wilde has done with this thing. And it's basically she's used this extremely privileged position that she has as a actress turned, apparently some people think that she's some sort of superstar director. I don't honestly see that. She's made a couple of movies, but really, in my opinion, hasn't really made a good one yet. But basically, it's bullying. And when you hear a lot of these people talk about Dr. Peterson, I mean, there's absolutely no question whatsoever that is exactly, not only is exactly what they're doing, but it's the only thing that they're really trying to do. I mean, some of the things that they like to talk about. I mean, they like to talk about how, they like to talk about how he got sick. They like to talk about how he got addicted to his, to his medication that his psychiatrist had, had prescribed to him. About how sick he got when he tried to get off of those medications. Every little misfortune that he experiences, they seem to like to really try to turn the screws on it. Is there any word for that other than bullying? I mean, if there is, you can feel free to let me know, but honestly, I don't think that there is. And what Olivia Wilde actually kind of reminds us, though, is that for all of the terrible things that a lot of these people like to say about Jordan Peterson, a lot of these people, are not only not any better themselves, but so many of them are so much worse. And as it turns out, Olivia Wilde is somebody that fits squarely into that category. That is a round peg into a round hole. She is so much more awful than anything that anybody even says about Jordan Peterson. And if you need evidence of that, all you really need to do is take a look at what's going on with her, with this newest movie of hers. With this Don't Worry Baby. Because she's had some serious problems behind the scenes. And as it turns out, that she has quite a bit of trouble accepting responsibility for the things that have gone on, basically under her control. And so apparently there have been some issues there behind the scenes, between the lead actress, Florence Pugh, and the person who was originally cast to play that cult leader character that was now played by Chris Pine. So apparently that role was originally cast for Shia LaBeouf. And so Shia LaBeouf, he came on and he worked on the project for a little while, and eventually he left the project. Now he left the project in a certain way. But in order to understand exactly, how terrible, just how terrible Olivia Wilde was in all of this, you have to first hear how she said that he left the project. And the way that she said that he left the project was that he was fired. That that his acting method and his creative method, they were not in line with what Olivia Wilde wanted. She said that he was too confrontational with his co-stars, and that she wanted somebody who was more collaborative and welcoming and supporting and warm and cuddly and fuzzy. That was what she said. But as it turns out, Shia LaBeouf was not fired from that project. Shia LaBeouf quit that project. And the reason why he said that he quit was, well, for one thing, he said that there was not nearly enough time made for there to be cast rehearsals, which from the sounds of it actually might have had something to do with Florence Pugh and her, her availability. Basically not making herself available to do as many, as many rehearsals as Shia LaBeouf would have preferred. And I can say, as somebody who has actually produced stage plays myself, written, directed, produced them, yeah, it's not at all uncommon that sometimes, people's schedules can get really, really dicey and that you don't get as much rehearsal time as you would like. That's not at all an uncommon thing. But that was the reason why Shia LaBeouf quit the project. He wasn't fired the way that Olivia Wilde said. As a matter of fact, apparently, Olivia Wilde had sent him emails begging him to stay on the project, despite all of these things that she said about his acting style, which, I mean, I've never been behind the scenes with Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if those things are true. I don't know if they're untrue. They might be true, but it doesn't really matter, because that's not actually what happened. Shia LaBeouf quit the project with something that had far more to do with Olivia Wilde than himself, And Olivia Wilde was apparently so butthurt over that the only thing that she could think to do was to try to throw him under the bus. And so as it so happens, there is a little bit more to the story, and it actually does have a lot to do with Florence Pugh. I mean, not just in the sense that apparently she couldn't be available for as many rehearsals as some of the other cast would have liked, but apparently there was some behind-the-scenes conflict, from the sounds of it, pretty serious behind-the-scenes conflict, between Florence Pugh and Shia LaBeouf. And it seems like most of the people associated with the project have kind of taken Florence Pugh's side of it. It sounds like if either one of them was in the wrong, it sounds like it was likely Shia LaBeouf. I mean, like I said, I'm not privy to everything that went on. I'm just kind of repeating things the way that they've been kind of reported elsewhere. And so Olivia Wilde, who in very short order would be more than happy to throw Shia LaBeouf under the bus, was also apparently absolutely determined to try to make Shia LaBeouf and Florence Pugh work together, despite the fact that it kind of seems like at that point Florence Pugh didn't really want to work with him, and sounds like she had pretty good cause to not want to work with him. So much for the safe and welcoming and supportive environment that she said she wanted to foster. That sounds a little sus. A few other details that kind of stand out to mind. It actually sounds like, like the lead actor in the production, Harry Styles, sounds like he might have gotten paid as much as 3 times more than the female lead. And it sounds like the female lead actually has a bigger role within the movie. Now, I mean, admittedly, he's Harry Styles. So, I mean, despite the fact that Florence Pugh has been associated with some, pretty prominent and pretty good, pretty good productions over the. I mean, I believe she was in Pretty Little Liars. She has been in a few different Marvel Cinematic Universe movies at this point. But yeah, there's no doubt that Harry Styles is a bigger star. But then, of course, there does seem to be, one more little detail standing out, and that is that, at least as of this particular project, it sounds like he was sleeping with the boss. So, he's sleeping with the boss, Olivia Wilde, and the Brinks truck gets backed up. Yeah, geez, there's definitely optics there, if nothing more. And honestly, it does kind of make it sound like Olivia Wilde might have abused her authority to get herself the opportunity to get lit up by a pop star. Although nothing's to say that might not have happened anyway. I mean, let's face it, Olivia Wilde, she is not an unattractive lady by any means. So it's not too hard to figure out any number of different ways how something like that could have happened. But the fact that's happening, and this guy is actually being paid more than what it sounds like, than the actress who has what sounds like the biggest role in the entire production. Yeah, no, that definitely doesn't look good. And especially not when you consider all the things that Olivia Wilde has had to say over the years about women's empowerment, and equal pay and things of the like. It does honestly seem to me that maybe Olivia Wilde could benefit from reading 12 Rules for Life. In particular, the chapter about tell the truth, don't say things that make you weak. Not that that's likely to happen, because like I said right at the top of this segment, Olivia Wilde doesn't actually know who Jordan Peterson is. She doesn't know about this book. She doesn't. She's probably never even really heard of him, aside from him being this guy who sometimes trends on Twitter when the degenerates are feeling snarky. But with that in mind, it does kind of remind us of one little thing, and I guess, if you're going to bully somebody, I suppose it might feel a lot easier to participate in the mass bullying of somebody who's basically a complete stranger to you. Not that I would suggest that anything like the ease of the bullying should say anything positive about Olivia Wilde. No, definitely not. Personally, if not for all of this other stuff, I might have actually been somewhat interested in this movie. I might have actually gone to see it. I don't see myself spending money on it now. Not with all of this in mind.